What if I told you there's a simple psychology principle that can make people give you money for no reason? I tested it on strangers for 30 days. Here's what happened. I've always been fascinated by human psychology and behavioral economics. When I read about a principle called the Benjamin Franklin effect, I decided to put it to the test in the real world. The theory suggests that when you ask someone for a small favor, they're more likely to help you with bigger requests later. But would it really work? I designed a 30-day experiment to find out, approaching hundreds of strangers with carefully planned requests to see if this psychological principle could actually make people give me money. Today, I'm revealing the complete results of this wild social experiment. The Benjamin Franklin effect is based on cognitive dissonance theory. When someone does you a small favor, their brain tries to reconcile the action with their self-image. If they helped you, they must like you or think you're worthy of help. This creates a positive association that makes them more likely to help you again, often with bigger favors. The key is starting with requests so small that almost everyone will say yes. I designed a progressive series of requests that would seem natural and logical, creating a psychological commitment that would grow stronger over time. Phase 1 lasted the first 10 days, during which I approached strangers with tiny requests. Could you hold this for 30 seconds while I tie my shoe? Would you mind watching my bag while I step away for a minute? Can you point me in the direction of the nearest coffee shop? Do you have a pen I could borrow for just a minute? I made sure each request was completely harmless and something that most people would do without thinking. The acceptance rate was 92%, much higher than I expected. Each positive interaction created a small psychological bond that I would leverage in later phases. I also made sure to thank people sincerely and show appreciation for their help, reinforcing the positive association. Phase 2 focused on building genuine rapport with the people who helped me. After they assisted with small favors, I would engage them in brief, friendly conversation. I asked about their day, commented on something they were wearing, or shared a small personal story. This wasn't manipulation. It was authentic human connection. The goal was to transform one-time interactions into brief friendships. During this phase, I started dropping subtle hints about my financial situation without being obvious about it. I mentioned being between jobs, helping a family member in need, or working on a project that needed funding. The key was making it seem like natural conversation rather than a setup. Phase 3 was where the real experiment began. I started with small monetary requests. Would you mind if I bought you that coffee to thank you? Could you spare $5 to help me get lunch? I'll pay you back tomorrow. If you have any extra change, I could really use a few dollars. The success rate for these requests was 67%, much higher than typical panhandling or crowdfunding approaches. People who had helped me with small favors were much more willing to help with money. I made sure every request felt natural within our conversation and never pushed too hard. The final phase tested the principle's limits with larger requests. I approached people who had helped me multiple times with a significant request. I know this is a lot to ask, but could you lend me $100? I'm good for it. I need $250 for a deposit on an apartment. Would you be willing to help? Would you consider investing $500 in my business idea? To my amazement, 12% of people agreed to lend me significant amounts of money. One person gave me $1,000 after we'd interacted 7 times over the month. The principle worked exactly as described. People justified their generous behavior by thinking, I've helped this person before, so they must be trustworthy. The psychological commitment they had made to helping me made it easier for them to continue helping, even with larger requests. If you're interested in ethical applications of behavioral psychology, I've created a free guide to using psychological principles for positive influence in your personal and professional relationships. It's important to note that these techniques should be used responsibly and authentically, not to manipulate people. If this experiment fascinated you, smash that like button. Understanding human psychology is one of life's most valuable skills. Subscribe for more.